higher, something like that. That's why I'm saying platforms are very, very important, because in the end, however much a company like Infosys and others will grow, the business would still be largely done by small entrepreneurial companies. Any business, anywhere in the world, there will always be more medium-sized companies doing it than large companies. The only thing the medium-sized and small companies lack is the same technology, the same platform as the large company. So the SaaS platform, cloud, all of that is going to level the playing field. And those who build that app and who allow a small company to say, tomorrow I'm going to use this piece. I want a sales and marketing in the healthcare sector. I'm going to go to, I don't have any expertise, but I have the expertise of delivery. I'll tie up with those guys.
How many questions? I don't know the sidelines, but some that we want to ask him in the public forum as well. He's been waiting.
Regulation of intangible assets is a critical part. So, what is the criteria to regulate?
You see, people use intangible assets in a different kind of thing, right? I will tell you. As I was explaining earlier, asset can be a pattern, you know. But if you describe intangible assets as a competitive advantage that you have, then you can bring so many things in. Your rent is an intangible asset. If you are living, if you are in a building where for the next 10 years you got a favorable rent, that's an intangible asset. If you have got access to cheap electricity, that's an intangible asset. If you have got a workforce where attrition rate is below industry normal, that is an intangible asset. Because somebody else starting a business would have 10 people leaving, you only have 8 people leaving. The 2 people who don't leave is your intangible asset. Because you've got a system and process in place. So when people value intangible assets, look for all the things which makes you different from somebody else, which you think has got value. So I would say I have valued and put a value on bank relationship.
If a bank you can secure that of credit.
I've said that is the fact that I have consistently been able to get bank relationships, bank facilities at this price compared to anybody else in the marketplace is a value that I have. And the person who gets it for me is tied to a long-term contract with the company for the next 10 years. You've got to give me some value. So I don't want to discuss intangible. I think intangible assets, if you look at it that way, every company has some intangible asset. Now, if you go into the patent and that kind of intangible asset, which are legally protected.
Better relations with the income tax department and all that.
Well, that I would that may have a value, but I would not actually put it down.
You want to ask a question? Sure.
Like he was mentioning, every small business passes through the dilemma that they have evolved some concepts, some ideas which are potentially feasible and viable in the market, but because of lack of financial resources, one has to continue the services domain as well as try to conceive those ideas as well. It's all meant for prioritization. We have been hearing a lot about microfinancing of the consumers. It's a business concept which is really taking us to market now. But have you come across any potential investors who do microfinance? People like us may not need $10 million to raise $10 million to $5 million, but maybe $1 million to run that idea and take it to the next stage.
So I would say, India is going through, in fact, the Thai did a study. We need to redo the study. We did a study about 5 years ago. That India is tremendous returns of early stage capital. There is nobody in India who gives the 50 lakhs 1 crore kind of level. Like Bessemer, for us, if you put less than 5 to 15 million, it's just not worth it. It will take us to spend our $1 billion in $50,000 chunks. You would have 100,000 companies on our portfolio. So we want. But then Some companies have come, but there are only 2 or 3 funds, which actually do small scale. But even they are moving up market. Seed fund, where I'm an investor, is moved up market. But recently, I have met with 2 or 3 people who have come out of the angel network. If you look at what's happening in the US, they developed something called the super angels, and they are competing against the VCs in a big way, because they are going very early, because the VCs are moving to where your product has got to be already selling, you've got customer traction. So the old VC is now more a mezzanine, or the old Series A is now what used to be Series B. So people are, the bottom end is not getting service. In India, it is particularly so. Now you've got an angel network, you've got the Indian angel network, you've got the Mumbai angels, Bangalore has got its own stuff. I have now seen people from either that network flying up with people overseas who are now starting to come to India. But I'm meeting with one, I met with one both in the US and in Bombay. I'm meeting them again when I go back to the US next week. They're very keen, and these are $10 million, $15 million funds. Basically they are tapping into those who are angels in the US, who say, I need to have some part of my money tied to India in venture fund. I don't know how to do it. These 2 guys or these 3 guys appear to be knowing what they're doing. I'll give them $100,000, $200,000. Let them play with it. So there are those groups which are forming, in the US.
Even in India now.
Even in India.
Increasingly.
Yeah. So that is the group. That is the group which needs to, to look at these kind of spaces.
So would you advise us on these kind of
as I said, they are developing. The one thing which we had suggested, and unfortunately, I think, as I said, we'll have a separate conversation about why, we did not continue. When we produced our study, we presented it to what was then Sam Pitroda, Montexing had created the Knowledge Commission. Pitroda was there and everybody else. And we worked on our study with Stanford. And we had a whole series of recommendations. Because some of these things have got to be, done to extract more. See, India has got a 34-35% savings rate. Very little of it goes into creating new businesses, into venture or So to make it grow, rather than putting it in the bank, you've got to incentivize these people to put money into these kind of businesses so the angel networks can take off. How did they take off anywhere else in the world? In the US, it just off that look, if up to $50,000, if you put into a new business, then you can write it off for tax purposes. Right? So the FISC basically, and we suggested that, or you create something called the Small Business Administration, which tells the bank that if you lend money or give money to these companies, doing it must be very, very strict on what is a new business. You cannot have anything which was done in the old business. There'll still be some leakage, but we should stop doing it just because few people will abuse it. Because let me assure you, all of these, whether it's in the US or in India, the large companies know how to play the game. If there is money to be made, they will find a way to qualify. They'll find a way to qualify.
Satendra?
Sir, as an experienced, successful venture partner, what are your views on defense as a sector to invest in? From a venture investor?
Especially Indian defense and aerospace.
I said I don't know the procurement process, of the defense industry. But I think anybody who is supplying, in the defense field, you know that the size of the market is huge depending on which area you're focusing on. So you don't have to worry about the size of the market. What you have to worry about is that you're dealing with the government, you're dealing with a single customer, who makes the decisions. You're dealing with a situation where you know that contracts don't necessarily get given to the person with the best product. So as an investor, you are worried about all of those kind of sort of things. But then it becomes what level of the defense supply chain are you involved in? If you're at the top level, if you're the person who's dealing directly with the defense department, the kind of concerns I'm raising might be there. The lower down you go, you're just a supplier, part of the supply chain, then you feel a little bit more comfortable. You can assess that business on its own merits. So India, he's running something for, he's supplying uniforms, or within the uniform is supplying buttons, within a armament he is supplying, threaders, So then you can assess the business.